Hey, good afternoon, guys. We're going to get started here momentarily. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes before we kick things off. Probably give it about 2 minutes, then we'll get started. As you guys are coming in, if you want to drop a note in the chat, just say hi. Feel free to do that. Definitely like for you guys to use the chat or the QA functionality as we go through this. If there's any questions along the way, any comments, things of that nature. So. See more people joining. So again, we're just going to give it another moment or so, then we'll get started. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Just a few housekeeping things real quick. Definitely, I kind of mentioned this earlier, definitely feel free to use the chat or the QA functionality as we go through this today. Love to make this, kind of informal and have some participation if possible, just kind of get some feedback. I'm assuming everyone's here today because they want to learn more around, we'll call it app layering, I'll put that in quotes, or you guys are potentially having some challenges with image management today and how you're handling the applications. Love to know if you got what you guys are using as well. So again, feel free to throw that in the chat window. Just love to get some feedback there. Are you guys utilizing these sort of application management solution today or app layering solution? If so, what solutions are you using? Is that with Citrix, VMware, AVD? Just trying to understand the landscape of what it is you guys are managing as well. So again, feel free to utilize those as we go through this. We definitely encourage audience participation along the way. Also want to mention we are giving away a Ford Bronco. And yes, you heard me correctly. XenTegra is about, I guess, 20 something days giving away actually 2 Ford Broncos. I actually need to update this to kind of showcase that, but we are giving away 2 Ford Broncos. You can go to our website there, workhasnoboundaries.com. Definitely want to register for that to get entered in that drawing. Like I said, 2 lucky individuals will be winning a Ford Bronco. So I want to touch base on the agenda today. Very quickly, I'm not going to try to, not bore you to death with PowerPoint presentation, but very quickly going to talk about who we are. We're going to talk about app layering, specifically Liquidware Flex app, or application attached maybe would be a better term. We'll jump into a demo and then we'll leave some time at the end for some questions. Just a quick introduction. My name is Randy Price. I'm a solutions architect at XenTegra. I live right outside Monroe, North Carolina. Been in the industry for 20 plus years, mainly focused on Citrix, VMware, Microsoft solutions. Been with XenTegra for a little over 6 years now. I'm responsible for a lot of our micro assessments. We'll talk about that in a moment. So if you guys have ever taken advantage of that, there's a good chance I was involved in that as well. I also have the pleasure of being joined by Johnny and Tom from Liquidware. I'm going to give them a moment to introduce themselves. Johnny, you want to start?
Johnny Ma. I'm a senior solutions architect with Liquidware. I live in Denver, Colorado. Prior to working at Liquidware, spent a lifetime deploying virtualization in general, virtual desktop, virtual servers, storage, and the like. I help our customers realize the value that our digital workspace management suite helps in their organization.
Very good. Definitely appreciate that. Tom?
Yep. Thanks, Randy. Tom Wynn here. And I am also a senior solutions architect for Liquidware. I just cover a different region from Johnny. I'm based out of Dallas, Texas, but I travel between Texas all the way around to Florida and the Carolinas. And like Johnny, I've implemented end user computing solutions for a very lengthy amount of time.
Very good, very good. And you guys both are very active in a lot of the different partner events and, CUGCs and so forth. So if you guys ever, attend one of these conferences or one of these events, for example, there's a good chance you guys might run into one of these too. So
Yeah, we were recently just at the Chicago Excel where we gave away PlayStation 5 to someone in the audience.
very cool, very cool. There you go. All right, so real quick, let's talk about who is XenTegra. This is Andy Whiteside. He's our founder and CEO. Andy was a Citrix sales engineer for about 7 years, I believe. While he was working at Citrix, he came to realize that at that time, right, the Citrix channel partners really only cared about getting brought into customer accounts and closing deals. What customers really needed was enablement around the products that they were purchasing. And at that time, the vendors just weren't able to provide this enablement, and that really frustrated Andy. And so out of that, XenTegra was born. In 2012, Andy founded XenTegra with that goal of trying to enable customers, right? Enhancing the community, trying to form true partnerships with the ecosystem vendors. And we continue to try to strive to add that value and enable our customers through education, training, and events such as this. Today, XenTegra is a virtual end user computing reseller. We invest heavily in our partnerships, again, our customers, the community, by providing carefully selected products and services, products and solutions, as well as expert services, along with, again, practical training and advice. So XenTegra brings the right products together to try to enable a user-centric workspace. We sell, design, and integrate solutions that help to get technology out of the way to enhance user productivity and achieve your digital transformation initiatives. Our roots are within Citrix. A lot of our consultants, for example, and engineers came from Citrix or have a deep Citrix background, but our goal is really to make your end user compute solution successful. So we pull in other key focus partners, and there's really expanded to cover Agile, Nutanix, Microsoft, ServiceNow, and VMware. So wherever you are on your digital transformation journey, we really have areas of expertise within these key focus partners. Our strategic partners are what I would call niche solutions, right? That can help really take any end user computing deployment and go from good to great. So XenTegra handpicks these partners and embeds them in where needed to really help our clients be successful. So why is XenTegra, right? So maybe you guys have another partner you're utilizing today, and we realize that there are many options out there, especially when it comes to partners in this end user ecosystem. However, I dare to say that no other partner will provide as much value as XenTegra does. We ask you to really truly evaluate your current partner and ask yourself, what value are they truly bringing to me as an organization? How does this partner help ensure my future success? Does this partner only really care about completing a transaction? At XenTegra, we're committed. Again, we invest heavily in our customers and our prospects, right, through education and events. We're very capable. We really try to strive to employ only the best of the best. We pride ourselves on getting industry experts and employees who are passionate about your success. I know it's been a few months back that we sat down and tried to collectively add all of our years of experience around this end user compute space, whether it be Citrix, VMware, Microsoft. And we were at like some crazy number, like 700 plus years of experience. We are very focused as well. We're a top national Citrix partner, Microsoft partner, we're a VMware partner. We're growing but we're smart and strategic. You know, there's no client that's too big or too small. We treat all of our clients the same. So we talk about the value add, you know, that I mentioned earlier. It is with things like complimentary assessments. Those are up to 4 hour engagement. We'll come in, we'll look at your environment. We'll essentially perform a SWOT analysis, listing out strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats as it relates to vendor recommended practices. And at the end, you'll get an actual deliverable. And again, those are complimentary or free assessments that could cover things like Citrix, VMware, iGel, Nutanix. I mean, there's several of these networking assessments. Definitely reach out if you haven't taken advantage of those. We also offer webinars, hands-on workshops. We have a lot of various vendor-focused podcasts that you can utilize, whatever your favorite podcast player would be, right? You can go out and subscribe to those. We put those out typically on a weekly basis. And then the last thing is conference passes. So one thing we try to do is to enable our customers, right, to attend conferences, whether that's to, send the customers for free, or providing passes, or whatever it may be, right? So we try to help you guys get to these conferences. So as these have been kicking back into gear since COVID, definitely reach out if you guys are interested in attending any of the vendor focused conferences, and we can definitely see if we can help you guys get there. So that's enough about XenTegra. Let's jump into why you guys are here today. I know you guys are specifically interested in app layering, right? With Liquidware Flex App. And again, feel free to throw that in the chat window. Love to know what you guys are using today for your applications management. If you guys have anything in use, if you're using any sort of application layering technology today, whether that's Citrix app layering, right? App volumes. Maybe you're using Flex App today already, right? Just love to hear what you guys are doing, or maybe you're still manually installing applications, right? Or maybe you were using AppV or MSIX. Just love to hear that. Throw that in the chat window. I'm assuming everyone's here for a specific reason. Most likely it's issues revolving around application delivery and image management. That's the true challenge that we have. So, when we talk about application delivery, what are the issues that we're trying to solve? I believe the most common issues are the fact that, if you go back to a traditional method, installing apps per PC or image is really inefficient, right? It's very time consuming. We typically have multiple images that are based upon departmental apps, right? That just increases this, right? This image sprawl. All of these images are also based upon an OS version, which again, just multiplies the issue, especially if we have hundreds of apps we have to maintain. So as we're going through, if we're running Windows 10 and going through the migration process to Windows 11, for example, having to maintain multiple images for multiple operating systems, not to even mention, if you guys are performing any sort of hosted shared or RDSH environment where maybe you still have 2016, 2019, 2022. I still have some customers out of call today with customer still running server 2012, right? So, and 2008. So again, that just causes this image sprawl. So how do we handle that? It's a never-ending life cycle management for both virtual and physical desktops, trying to maintain applications, updates, and versioning. So what is the solution, right? I feel like the solution is really separating the apps from the base image, because if you think about it, managing apps from the base image is more efficient, right? Base OS image management becomes easier. There's far less number of images required because the apps are managed separately. Those base image apps, those base images remain clean and pristine. This would allow for also the potential portability of these applications across multiple operating systems. So for example, having, an application that I can run now on Windows 10, Windows 11, again, server 2016, 2019, as long as that application is supported, without having to maintain multiple images with that app. So when it comes time to perform an image update or patching, I patch it in one place versus having to go to multiple environments, right? Multiple images to have to patch. So when we talk about this, who can benefit from this approach the most? And really it's everyone, especially, customers with, whether it be dozens or even hundreds of applications. So when we talk about this, there's various solutions on the market today. And what what solution can help solve these challenges, provide the ability to decouple the applications from the base OS. Again, there's several players in this space, but I dare to say that none can provide the flexibility, ease of deployment, and administration like Liquidware FlexApp. And that's why it's really considered a leader in the space. You know, if you go back and look, Liquidware has won numerous awards for FlexApp, and it was also the first app layering solution on Amazon Marketplace, as well as in Microsoft Azure Marketplace. So let's talk about FlexApp. It's an advanced feature within the Profile Unity user environment management platform. It's a fully integrated solution that leverages profiles, settings, and policies, but it can actually be implemented independent of Profile Unity's core UEM feature set. So if you guys have some sort of user profile management solution in play today, or UEM solution in play, and you're happy with that, you can continue to utilize that, right, with FlexApp. For those of you that may be interested in a profile, management / user environment management solution, then definitely take a look at Profile Unity. We'll talk about that momentarily, even though today's focus is on FlexApp. I definitely want to bring that up because it is, part of the overall solution, since FlexApp is built on top of Profile Unity. FlexApp enables administrators to assign departmental level applications, again, to groups of users. Its application layering is compatible with all the major desktop virtualization platforms, right? That could be Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops, or Citrix DAS, be VMware Horizon, right? Could be AVD, Parallels RAS, it could be AWS, just across the board, right? The one thing that's kind of stands out versus a lot of the other solutions, right, is the ability to also layer to physical PCs, right? So being able to also attach these to physical desktops as well. And it supports virtually all application types. It provides flexible layering options as well, whether we want to layer applications at system boot. So for those apps that are, common across the enterprise, right, we can layer apps at boot. We can layer apps at user login. There's also a click to layer functionality, which allows for an icon to be displayed. The application doesn't actually layer into the OS or into that session until the user actually clicks to launch it, right? So we'll talk about that a little more as well. But the other thing that's kind of unique with FlexApp is, we can utilize cloud-based storage, right? We can have multi-cloud staging and hosting of applications utilizing whatever cloud provider of your choice. So you can actually host these on-prem. You can use, cloud storage as well to host these applications. So giving all of that is definitely a feature benefit of utilizing FlexApp. So let's talk about some of the other feature benefits, right, when using FlexApp. If you guys have ever used solutions such as Citrix app layering, for example, or even app volumes, right, the amount of time it takes to layer an application, especially on the Citrix app layering side, it can be very, very daunting at the least. FlexApp includes something, or they call it fast packaging. It literally takes you the same amount of time to package the application as it does to just natively install it, right? So think about that. I can install it once, package that application up, and then just deploy it out as needed, right? Their package once technology, again, a packaged application, I already kind of spoke to this, can be deployed to any Windows OS version that supports that application. Again, the ability to have cloud hosted apps. And FlexApp comes with several prepackaged cloud-based applications that you can clone and utilize for your existing deployment. You can stage your own, app repository, if you will, that can be hosted in the cloud. And that's due to their ability to also integrate with native cloud storage. Again, being able to support all the major cloud storage providers. They also provide session isolation, so you can have multiple users log into a single, Citrix virtual app server, Microsoft AVD RDSH server, right? And each user within their session have their own unique applications. They also have micro isolation, so any sort of packaging and interactions are seamless with zero file conflicts. And again, coupled with things like Profile Unity, right? You get application and user rights management, That's included, right? No additional cost there, where you get the ability to also, whitelist or blacklist applications or elevate users' credentials if needed. Also have the ability to enable context-aware triggers based upon users, groups, time, endpoint. There's a lot of different things we can do as well from a filtering perspective. And all of these are delivered from a centralized management console with, and get this, no database requirements, right? So there's not a requirement for SQL, for example. A lot of these other solutions will utilize some sort of database management. For take app volumes, for example, requires a SQL component. There's no database requirement here. And we'll talk about it a little bit later, just in a few slides down, as we showcase the architecture. So this is the FlexApp layered approach, right? It's really taking any Windows OS level apps packaged individually, right? And we can store those on any sort of CIF share, or again, any cloud-based storage. We assign these to users, and we can create now a desktop pool utilizing any OS or application combination, really helping to simplify image management, right? And again, we have some customers that maybe they were utilizing Citrix app layering, for example. You can still utilize Citrix app layering to manage the OS layer if that's something you guys are interested in. If you guys want to do that and use FlexApp on top of that to manage the applications, right? So that is a potential option as well. So that's the great thing about FlexApp. It works across, integrates in with what you have today from an infrastructure standpoint. So a couple of other things that's kind of unique on the FlexApp side. They also have what's called package automation. So this is, again, ideal for customers with, numerous applications or even just dozens, right? This provides that sort of DevOps functionality where we can have bulk packaging of executables, MSIs, MSIXs. So imagine being able to, come in on a Friday, right? And you've got a list of applications that need updating. You prepare that list and you kick it off, letting this streamline, this automation do its thing, come in the next day, and you've bulk packaged 100 applications, right? That is the capability of the FlexApp package automation. It does work with silent installation switches, and it supports all those from all the major vendors as well. And the output's, again, turnkey. It's ready to test. It's available for you to import into your console and test the deployment through their unified management console. They also have the capability now to also take those applications and convert them into a single file, right? So what I mean by that is, imagine being able to go in, package your application, having that ability then to deploy it out like I natively would within FlexApp, but also now generating a single executable. When you click on the single executable, again, there's no external player required, but it's all self-contained. So it's a single executable that I can click on to run that application. It helps keep those base images clean and allows me to distribute this executable via whatever means necessary, right? Whether I'm sharing it on OneDrive, whether I'm using Intune, for example, or SCCM, however I want to manage my devices. Now I can deploy these applications. There's several different use cases for this, being able to utilize applications offline, right? And again, this is kind of outside of Citrix, but maybe I have some end users. They have laptops, they need an application set that doesn't require database connectivity back into my corporate network. I can now deploy this FlexApp One package to them, allow them to run that application potentially offline. Another sort of use case is if I have consultants, right, or contractors that are working for me and they need access to a specific application set. Now I can give them a FlexApp One package, and I can actually set an application expiration as well. So we talk about FlexApp versus a FlexApp One. When do we use one over the other? And it really, again, comes down to, do I need to be connected online, or do I need that offline component, right? Is it well managed and offline? Majority of these applications you'll see work well off of FlexApp. FlexApp 1 has that same sort of capability, but if the end user or that device needs the capability to work offline, that's where FlexApp 1 kind of comes into play. Or I want to be able to share those apps, right, without any sort of requirements, right, or a player or an agent, if you will, deployed on those. So, we look at FlexApp, we can see there's definitely several potential use cases when we utilize their solution for application delivery, whether that be simplifying app management, supporting a non-persistent desktops, simplifying base image management, business continuity, right, having business continuity and providing that for our end users. FlexApp or Liquidware also maintains a community site where you can find just different discussions, column recipes, right, on how to package or layer these applications and recommended practices. If you go out there, you'll actually see that this list has become shorter and shorter, and the reason for that is just compatibility out of the box, right? It just works, and so they've done a great job. Liquidware support is very, very good. I've worked with them in the past and had nothing but great results, and I've heard that time and time again from multiple customers. So they do a really good job of working with the community and again addressing any sort of issues they find and putting those in new releases as well. So let's look at the FlexApp architecture. Again, I kind of already mentioned, and so we have Profile Unity here. It really sits on top of Profile Unity, so they share the same sort of architecture. For on-prem deployments, it runs as a standalone system. We can utilize our existing infrastructure, right? Again, no proprietary databases are used for storing user profiles or data. There is a lightweight client that we install to our endpoints, but doesn't require a reboot. So there's no user downtime, anything of that nature. The agent and the configuration files, right? They can be hosted on any sort of enterprise file share. A lot of customers choose to utilize their existing NetLog share because it's there, it's already available, and it's highly available. It's replicated, right? So they have replication and highly available. Again, no extra infrastructure. So that is an option as well. So I know we kind of briefly touched on FlexApp. Let's switch over to Profile Unity and how does it benefit FlexApp. For cloud-based deployments, Profile Unity is leading the market with cloud integration. Again, being able to utilize your cloud storage provider, you can now provide profiles delivered from object-based cloud storage, whether that's S3, Google Cloud, Azure Blob. We can use those to save user profiles in your policy settings, right? Profile Unity's support of cloud storage for profiles is seamless and fully integrated. So there's really zero user downtime, right? So there's API level integration to allow you to transition your profile securely at log off or even during the user session in the background from on-prem to the cloud. So as I'm looking to transition from an on-prem deployment, maybe I'm looking to provide virtual desktops in the cloud, I can transition those profiles in the background, right? So the users, when they log in to their cloud-based desktop now, they get this same user experience. We can also, any sort of user-created data as well, right? Whether it's my documents, pictures, et cetera, can be set to automatically transfer in the background to cloud-based storage solutions such as Microsoft OneDrive, right? Dropbox, Google Drive. This functionality ensures that user data is always there, is secure and available, right? So wherever the users have access. So Profile Unity with FlexApp really delivers a feature-rich user persona management and application layering solution. Again, for virtual desktop deployments as well as physical PCs. Both of these can work with virtual desktops as well as physical PCs. And that's, I like to underline that and kind of call that out, right? Because things like Citrix App Layering, for example, only works with virtual desktops. Profile Unity, just like FlexApp decouples the applications from the underlying OS, Profile Unity decouples user profile settings and data from the OS, right? Helping to end that user migration cycle to new Windows desktops. So, if I'm using Citrix today and I'm looking in the future to migrate to AVD or vice versa, I'm on AVD and I'm going to go to Citrix or VMware or whatever, right? You're not locked into a specific vendor. Now we can take those applications and user settings, data, and profile and migrate between various solutions. Profile Unity utilizes the same lightweight agent. There's no complex software involved. again, and Profile Unity dynamically applies user profiles and stores these configurations data and whatever applications we decide to layer, right, to a Windows OS in seconds at login time, right, really helps you become more flexible, actually more flexible than ever, with your desktops. Profiles are extremely portable across operating systems. You'll see that here in a moment as well. A lot of customers utilize this in conjunction with FSLogix to help populate user profiles. And I believe, Johnny, we can talk about this a little bit, but Johnny, Tom, I believe that now you guys even have a FSLogix business continuity template, right, in the latest release. So
yeah,
you guys are doing a lot for that integration, because I get it a lot of times. So, well, I'm using FSLogix, right? Well, yeah, there's some benefits using Profile Unity with FSLogix, and maybe we can touch on that in a little bit during the demo. Again, Profile Unity, also manages any Windows application deployment, including, again, Flex apps, MSIX, AppV, which is, I know, getting discontinued, ThinApp, AppStream, across the board, being able to manage all of these application types. So a couple of slides here and we'll jump right into the demo, but Profile Unity does offer these key advantages, right? Again, centralized dynamic user profiles, app and policy management across all Windows versions. It does retain profiles in native Windows formats, which means that we can keep them, backward and forward compatible across the various operating systems. They can even coexist on multiple OS types as well. I already mentioned that they also includes application rights management. It's no additional cost, which again allows you to elevate user privileges if needed be to run specific applications, or maybe you want to restrict applications from a certain group in the base image. You guys also now have cloaking technology, which is similar to FSLogix app masking, right? So you can even cloak applications in the image, right, and hide those from specific user sets. Context-aware filters, right, giving you granular control over how these features and configurations are applied. We can really, you can base this on a single filter, or we can stack, hundreds of different criteria on top of each other, right? So maybe I want to only, layer in this specific application to a specific group of users on Tuesdays at this time, only if they're, coming or logging in over a Citrix session and not a VMware session. You can do that, right? So there's all of this granularity across that. And again, works across mixed OS environments and the ability to support both physical, virtual, and cloud-based workspaces. Again, Profile Unity and Flex App is chock full of innovation. This is and I just kind of call this out, and this has been out for a few months now, but I'd like to just kind of bring to light some of the latest things that they have implemented, right? And so we talk about application layering, for example. There are other vendors that are trying to do the same as Flex App, but if you go out and you look at the feature sets, Liquidware is definitely leading the way, right? So a lot of other vendors out there that are trying to achieve what Liquidware is doing or has been doing, they're falling behind. They're not up to date with some of the feature sets that Liquidware has embedded within it. So, Johnny, Tom, anything here specific that stands out to you guys that you guys have?
Yeah, we talk about application cloaking. So for a long time there in the world, people would adopt Flex App, but you would still have to go back and say, I need to use FSLogix for application masking, right? So now it just becomes more one-stop shopping, less consoles and clients and things you need to track in the world, just because we've introduced application cloaking for either a native application, an on-boot Flex App delivered application, or a user-based Flex App application. The other one is predictive block caching, we've constantly seen in the world prior to this. If I loaded something from like an Autodesk, or I loaded something from Adobe Creative Suite. It sits there at the splash screen for a while it loads everything to make the application function. So we can actually pre-record those and store them as part of the FlexApp package, so that when we initiate and use the application, we just pump those back into the operating system, and it makes those larger applications launch faster. On top of that as well, the ability to merge layers is something that we've seen quite a bit for folks asking the question, right? Just imagine this scenario. I have an application that requires a database client, and I chose to and elected to package those two applications separately, because I could recycle that database client to use with another application. I don't want to install it, 4, 5, 6 times. Before, we could have that potential where if the application did some sort of auto launching or service starting, that it would sit there and it could land before the database client landed, and it would freak out and say, big giant error, could not communicate the database, right? So with the merging ability, I can actually take those two layers and combine them together in a singular Microsoft VHDX. And when I land the package, it lands together. So there is no scenario of chicken before egg, cart before horse, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera there. Those are the ones that truly stand out. Anyone with any questions in the chat to discuss any of the other features and functions are more than welcome to chime in.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. And one thing I like personally as well is just some of the things like the auto OS optimizations, right? Having that packaging VM and automatically performing some of the optimizations that you guys recommend just from a compatibility standpoint, as well as having the capability to have the auto, the OS rollback, right? Being able to leverage that. So
on the optimization, it's extremely more important today, even more, because how it used to operate was we used VMware's OS optimization tool. And if you follow along what they did with that, it went from fling state, which is use at your own risk. There is no phone number you can call us at for support, to an actual supported VMware product. When they transition the phase of what it is to where it is now, it's hidden behind I must log into VMware.com to go download this guy now. So I can just offer it out of the box. You go in there, you can tweak the file if you need to, if you don't want it to do certain functions. It just makes it where I don't have to worry about this, then I don't have to go download a template, then a tool to actually run that template.
Right. That's very cool. Okay, let's bored you guys enough with the PowerPoint, right? I think everybody likes the demo, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, turn it over to you guys. Give me just a moment. Here we go.
All right, give me 2 seconds here. All right.
And for those that are joining, feel free again. If you got a question, comment, definitely want to make this kind of informal. Feel free to throw it in the chat window. We'll be monitoring it as Johnny and Tom go through this. Love questions, so don't hold back. All
right, so everyone can see my screen, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so this is the Profile Unity server. So regardless if you want to run Profile Unity and FlexApp together, or you want to run the pieces separately, you do have to have a Profile Unity server somewhere. There's 2 primary functions of the Profile Unity server. The first one is building configurations. These configurations land as .ini files, either on a network share or in Cloud Object native storage. The second function of this server is licensing. So we do fail open on our technology. Basically, that equates to if the server is not available, you will still log in, you will still load a profile, you'll still load applications, and the world continues to spin, right? We don't impede any of that progress just because the server went offline. You will generate a license warning message if the server is offline and you process the login and it could not retrieve a license. We do offer a high availability mechanism there where we can actually stand up a Profile Unity server cluster so that there is a surviving node that can licensing request for you. Just as Randy talked about, no database technologies that affect the ability for the server to be online. Also, subsequently, no need for a load balancer to exist to front end where do my applications live in terms of brokering those sessions, or also subsequently, how do I retrieve this policy if, you know, something like that load balancer is offline? Pointing the question always back at VMware app volumes requires you to load balance or define a failover behavior of the app volume manager, and then Citrix WEM as well. Most commonly, people load balance the WEM fully qualified domain name so that the agent has the ability to reach back to the WEM server. So there's two primary things in here. If you do not have a configuration, you get this nice little bouncy arrow that points you at this create button. Building a configuration with us is very easy. If you're just purely deploying Flex apps, select the manual configuration. You don't have to roll through any of the guided pieces. But if you're doing the full Profile Unity suite along with Flex app, you know, back in the olden days, people said, how do I know if I'm doing things correctly? Or how do I know that I'm building things completely wrong? And that's where I'm going to stumble upon issues. We have a guided configuration node here. And our guided configuration node will walk you through if you want to use our multi-session profile container. We call it profile disk, a single session profile disk, just portability in itself with no container technology behind it. Do I want to store my profiles in Azure, GCP, AWS? And as Randy gleamed over before, if I want to use FSLogix to be my container solution, how do I back up a container? So if you are deploying FSLogix today, we can actually back up the FSLogix container for you for the user settings, and it alleviates your backup team from needing to back up that location, because if the containers go sideways and you need to rename a container or show up with the blank container, we will take portability and re-inject all the user personalized settings into the container. And, you know, once again, we talk about the world continues to spin.
So Johnny, how does that differ from like the Cloud Cache, right? Where
Cloud Cache, you're actually doing a simultaneous version of the actual FSLogix container out there with that. You don't have to use Cloud Cache anymore. So if the first section is down, you can go and define some other location to store those containers. And we will auto detect that your container came in blank, because how we operate portability with that is we'll actually generate restore once files in the local copy of that container. And if they're missing, we will be instructed to refill the container.
Got it.
So once you stand up a configuration here, there's all the modules that are possible with us, right? There's nothing that says you have to use everything in here, because you might not ever have an IE anymore, right? With the doom that happened to IE and going EOL, right? So you use whatever you need to use. There's nothing that says you need to check the boxes across the board for every single one of these things in your worlds. The guided configuration would give you some application launcher scripts, portability, folder redirection, handful of registry items. And then all that's really left from your side of the world to consume this, to round out your configuration, put some map printers in here, put some drive mappings in here if you use them, add some Flex app applications, and you're good to go. In terms of application cloaking, they are in the application restrictions module. All I do is check the box to do hide app, define the value that needs to be hidden, and those applications are all gone. As we talked about before, it works at a file system level. So it's not just hiding Flex app applications. I can go in there and hide something like a notepad.exe if I wanted to. Once you're done with editing the configuration, we do have to deploy the configuration. As we talked about before, the server can go offline, so I do need to drop out a file somewhere so that my client knows to read the file for all of the defined modules and the configuration inside of it. So that's the actual console walkthrough, Profile Unity piece walkthrough. Let's talk about how do we package applications. So packaging applications is very, very easy with us. In this case, I have a Flex app packaging console. We call it an FPC for short. This is running on a Server 2022 machine, and this machine is actually off the domain. Being off the domain does equate that I need one additional step to import my packages into inventory. That's just logistics. It can be on the domain if you wanted it to. It can be on the domain and subsequently dropping the packages automatically into Azure, AWS, or GCP if you want to as well. So from here, let's package an application to show you how fast it is. If I come behind here to my file share location, I'm going to copy a local copy of the WinSCP executable just because I'm off the domain. If I were to run the installer from a network share, I would get prompted for credentials again, just trying to reduce the amount of stuff I need to type in. So the package name is an administrative name, right? So I can call this whatever I want. So I'm going to call it WinSCP XenTegra webinar because, that's what we're doing right now. I can elect to fill out a pack version if I want to. It can be the true version of things, or I can make up a version. It doesn't stop me or preclude me from doing any of that. VHDXs will land on-prem. Even though VHDXs are used in the cloud, that's where the actual differentiator is. They're still VHDXs. They're just automatically dropped out to Azure, AWS, or GCP, as opposed to the output being a local location that's reachable on the network. In my case, I will land it on my D drive of this machine, and all I'm really left to do after I'm done packaging is transfer it over to my network share and import it into inventory. With the 6.8.5 release, we actually introduced a different mode. By default, we do normal mode. And how normal mode basically operates is that we would generate a reparse on the actual VHDX that gets created. Basically, we sit ourselves in front of the C drive, and when we're in record mode, and we record the stuff that happened for the application install. Sometimes applications are stubborn, and they do not like that we are sitting ourselves in front of the C drive. That's why we came up with high compatibility mode. In high compatibility mode, the major difference we're doing there is we interrogate the NTFS journal to ask the operating system what hit the machine, the disk here. And once we can extrapolate that across, we knew that during the record process, these are the things that hit the NTFS journal, which equates to this must be the application that we want to actually package. I'm going to leave it at normal. The size by default is 20 gigs. You can type in a number here. It's logistics and semantics because at the bottom, we set things to expandable. Commonly see folks with small application trying to play the game of coming out here and typing all kinds of fun numbers or using the selector. You by default can leave everything at 20 gigs and be fine 99.999% of the time. Sometimes applications are larger than 20 gig. Our friends at Autodesk do produce packages that are 20, 25 gigs at times. So that is something to be aware. As long as you select everything expandable, there's no penalty of having everything at 20 gigs. Also talking about when we transition these packages into the cloud, if I set everything in my world to 20 gig fixed, then I decide I want to copy those packages out to Azure, AWS, or GCP. Someone gets a nice bill in the mail and questions are asked because, they charge you per gig for cloud storage. So when I'm ready to go here, I'm gonna hit the nice create button here. And what that will do for me is on my D drive volume, it will create me an empty VHDX and it will be ready for me to capture. So I'm going to click the start button and I need to wait for this to say I'm ready to proceed with the install. And with that, I am in capture mode. During capture mode, we want to reduce the background noises that happen on this machine. Because if I'm going out here right now and installing Windows updates, because I didn't run our optimizer or disable the various services to make sure that they're not doing those types of things like that, I will most definitely record those and your packages become very large and behave very abnormally. So from this perspective here, all I need to do is run through the application installer as I normally would. And this is what gets recorded. WinSCP in truth is probably a very good candidate for our FlexApp packaging automation technology because it's an easy application and the installation switch is very well documented. So, once I've done installing the application, I can elect to run it if I deem fit. And once I'm satisfied with it, I can hit the finish button. If your application is a multi-stage where it requires a reboot to update files that and services that are running, ignore the one that comes from the application and click the reboot button from the FlexApp packaging console so that we know to resume the installer and the console. So my WinSCP application does not do any of that. So I'm gonna hit the nice finish button here, and you'll actually see this icon go away because it'll actually uninstall the application from here as well. The application is fully containerized inside of that VHDX. And I'm gonna hit the save button here to commit it. So if I wanted to, at this point in time, need to kill a shortcut or do any of those bits and pieces in my world, I can load the packaging editor and come out to my shortcut locations in the start menu and remove them if I deem fit. This is once again points the finger at Citrix app layering, because if I left a shortcut there, unfortunately, I have to play back the whole entire package just to trim a shortcut out. So our package editor gives you a lot of benefits and flexibility to actually quickly edit the package for something like that. Or if I needed to come out and kill a service, disable a scheduled task, inject registry keys, it's all within the realm of possibility for us there. I'm gonna
Been there, done that.
Yep. I'm going to hit the cancel button here because I didn't make any changes to the packages. It'll actually unmount and discard the child VHD that was spawned as part of the editing process. And if I come out here, I have 3 files. I have the administrative icon. This is the icon that's seen in the Profile Unity console, as well as the FlexApp packaging console. This is the VHDX, which contains my application set. I have an XML file for our console to understand what to do with this VHDX, either on an importing fashion and also on playback. So to consume the application, it's very easy. I'm going to copy this package out to my FlexApp package repository location on my network share. And then from the Profile Unity console, I do need to import it into inventory in order to be able to deploy it. So I'm going to import it, point it out to my share. Packet type. And then you'll see that I have that WinSCP's XenTegra webinar edition version of it. And this is where that XML file piece allows me to import it into my inventory. So now that it is imported, has my nice version, has all the stuff that I defined when I packaged it, all I need to do is come assign it to my configuration. So FlexApp, as we talked about, is a module inside of our configuration. So I open up that module, and assigning it is easy as dragging it from the right-hand side to the left-hand side. And for demo purposes, I'll show you what click to layer looks like. Click to layer is our just-in-time delivery. And I'm gonna hit save here, update my configuration, and deploy my configuration. I missed a step back here. I actually want to make a package edit so that we have a FlexApp 1 capable demonstration as well. Very easy for me. I'm actually going to clone this package and we'll call it something else. If I can type in here. Right, FA1 edition. And I'm just going to check the box here to create me a FlexApp 1 package as well. Well, I'm going to let this marinate in the background. And let's log into this VM. So this VM picked up 2 configurations. It picked up a system boot FlexApp configuration where it pulls up Adobe Reader, OpenOffice, Google Chrome, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then also simultaneously, it picks up this user configuration, which does portability, some privilege elevation, and various registry keys, as well as these FlexApps as well. So when I authenticate here, this machine will load portability onto it. It will restore my profile. It will mount various VHDXs for things like Outlook OSTs and Teams and the like. And it'll also subsequently mount all my requisite FlexApp applications as long as I meet the criteria for the filters. So you'll see our splash screen. There is the ability to suppress the splash screen if you don't want to see the splash screen. Do you understand in lieu of the splash screen, you hang out that black screen for a little bit instead. So this will come up and it'll actually come and sort out my icons. Give it a second here. You'll see WinSCP is here. it just creates the normal shortcuts that the applications would expect to be there. If I open up disk management, you'll see that I attached all kinds of applications. For whatever reason, it didn't seem like my system boot one ran. Whatever, we can just continue without running the system boot applications instead. But WinSCP is not one of the applications that is technically attached at the moment, right? So we don't see the WinSCP XenTegra webinar one. That's because we selected click to layer. So if I elected to run the application off the start menu, your eyes got focused over here where it did that just-in-time delivery. And then from there, WinSCP XenTegra webinar loaded itself in this configuration, and we see the application running in the background. So that's user-based Flex apps. The same shortcut shows up in the start menu. I can run the application as many times as I want, along with, mremote and Evernote and all of these guys. These are all Flex app delivered applications, and they operate as they operate, 100% native. So if I wanted to prove to you that there is nothing going on here, I can force these applications to go away, and I leave the operating system clean and pristine by coming out here and stopping my service. So once I stop the services, all of my directories become scrubbed clean as if there is nothing that landed here, right? I don't see any Google Chromes or WinSCPs and the like on my system here in my file system anymore. So yeah, that is traditional Flex app. If we want to see Flex app 1, I do need to boot that VM. So give me 2 seconds and I'm going to come back to the clone process. So Flex app 1, when I did the clone, I checked the box that says create me a Flex app 1 simultaneously. And you notice that not only do I have the traditional 3 files for a Flex app, I have a 4th file, which is where we can self-containerize the actual VHDXs into its own executable. So then once again, I can copy this to my network share location. And then I can use the application onto this other machine, which doesn't run a Profile Unity client. Theoretically, it is booting in some fashion. Maybe. I might have to reboot that one. I'm going to shut this one down. Sometimes my CPU in this lab is a little strange. It rebooted for whatever reason. We should see it come up here shortly. Any questions from anyone in the chat on what they've seen on the traditional Flex app case that we were talking about? It ran Windows updates, cute.
Yeah, just to mention too, so you kind of covered this, but so when the Flex apps are attached, right? So even in the control panel, they show up, they're kind of designated, as well as any sort of context menu, right? So, I mean, it looks and feels like it's native.
Yes, if you had something like VS Code, Notepad++, whatever it is, and you're opening text documents, you do a right click, there's options to open with Notepad++, open with VS Code. And this guy is rebooting again, sweet. All right, we can even play the game even better. So let's play the game even better. So if I'm going to grab that Flex app 1 package and put it on the local laptop and run the Flex app 1 application as that fashion, right? So this is, let's grab that from our share. And I'm going to transfer that one to my desktop. So my local laptop does not run any Profile Unity clients, right? And if I wanted to run a Flex app 1 application, it is here and it is ready. If it has resources. There we go. WinSCP pulled itself up. And once again, if we interrogate our disk management, that's the only VHD that's mounted. We didn't process the Profile Unity client. If I come out to my location here, right? There's no Profile Unity client. This is purely 100% laptop, right? It's available offline. If it wouldn't disconnect me from the webinar, I would actually disconnect the NIC here on this machine. But yes, at the end of the day, if I were to stop this FlexApp 1 application, that VHD gets dismounted and I can elect to rerun it again and it'll pop up for me once more.
So what sort of use cases do you guys, what's the typical use cases you see customers using that?
Yeah, this is for the offline use case. So if I am a user and at 5 o'clock when the time rolls around and I still need to run the application, but I close the lid to the laptop and I'm off and need to jump on a bus or a train, or let's just say I'm flying across the country to deliver the super duper presentation and the Wi-Fi is broken on the airplane. Instead of relying upon the traditional FlexApp use case, which is I need internet at a minimum, because if I'm talking out to Azure, AWS, or GCP, I need that. Right. I can actually take the application offline and edit my drawing that I'm producing for that presentation, or modifying whatever offline copy of the document. And then once I'm done making those edits to the document, save those documents out to something like a OneDrive. So then when I do land in my location and I connect to the airport Wi-Fi or hotel Wi-Fi or whatever it may be, I sync those documents back to OneDrive. I lost zero productivity because the Wi-Fi was broken on the airplane and the like. And I'm just continuing to allow my people to do what they need to do. The major use case with FlexApp and FlexApp 1 is we don't install anything onto the machine. So if you need to update your application, all it is cycling it through and signing a new version to make it happen.
Very cool.
Any question from anyone? And if you would like to see it on the VM side of the world, we can actually walk through that real quick. And here is where we can actually disconnect the NIC, because I can actually come out to VMware and tell the NIC to be disconnected. So let's do that. It should take a few seconds to pop up here. No Profile Unity splash screen, no Profile Unity black screen in lieu of the splash screen, right? I am on the network in this case at the moment. If I were to, for instance, sneakernet it to myself, someone says, here's the application, put it on a flash drive, copied it locally, and the like, I'm able to run this offline by disconnecting the NIC. So if I come out to my network adapter here, I'm no longer connected. Our friend here does not have any internet or anything that it can talk to, but I can still type in the application and do what I need to do. And then as we talked about before, if I come browsing my C drive, WinSCP, and I came to this application tray and did a hard stop, this will get very angry at me because the location is not available anymore. When I did the stop operation, I told it to dismount the application and the directory doesn't exist anymore when it becomes dismounted. But then if I want to reload it again, all I need to do is click that and I'm good to go again. So that's FlexApp, FlexApp 1. Questions from anyone in the chat or anything?
Yeah, guys, feel free to throw any questions in if you have them.
The other demo I can show you too, I do need to boot another VM, is FlexApps from Azure. So let me power down this guy. We do have a few minutes left here to show you that. And I'm going to actually roll the snapshot on this guy so I can package my next application. And I have an Azure VM where the FlexApp packages actually live out in Azure. So let me pop out to my Azure tenant here, and I'm going to go into my lab tenant. And
so if you have
yeah.
Customers that are running have environments, right, that are on-prem and cloud-based, do you guys, what's the recommendation for replicating those packages, right, those applications from on-prem?
It can be replicated in any fashion. It can be as simply replicated as running a couple of AZ copy commands to send them everything up into a specific directory out to Azure Blob Storage, right? Or you can say, I don't want to replicate it all. I'm going to store everything in Azure, and it's going to pull from Azure to on-prem. It's going to pull to Azure into Azure. It logistically, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to us where you pull it from. So if you look at this, this is the same 3 files. So it's an icon file, it's the VHD, and it's the metadata. When you upload stuff into Azure Blob Storage, it does create a pack ver. Replicating out to Azure is as simple as transferring the package with our packaging console. So actually, that's off the domain. Let me log out and log in as a domain asset. Sorry. It's just cleaner to show it in that fashion. Actually, I can't. Oh, okay, never mind. Give me 2 seconds here. So I'm going to log back in. I'm going to run my FlexApp packaging console. And instead of doing what we call offline packaging, we're going to do online packaging. Basically, I'm going to use my FlexApp packaging console and connect it to my Profile Unity server so that I understand everything that is occurring there in terms of inventory. So I'm going to authenticate as myself as my domain user. And it's going to pick up all my applications in my inventory. And I'm not going to do any rollbacks at the moment of this or optimizations because I've already run them. So if I wanted to take an on-prem package and ship it out to the cloud, I hit the clone button here. And then all I really do is set this to cloud and set the blob storage account that I want to send it to. And then I just need to define it as something like this inside of a container. And the moment I hit the clone button, assuming I fill out the packaging name, it will actually take the package, copy it off of my network share onto this VM, and then it will start sending it directly to Azure. And that's what we end up looking like here. So you'll end up with various application packages inside of this FlexApps container, all of them containing the 4 files, the 3 traditional files, and each one of them containing a pack ver. So that's as easy as doing the manual replication. If you just want to do an AZ copy, it's very, very easy as well. You follow the instructions, generate the shared access signature to allow you to pipe those directly up to Azure. So if I come up to my ProU console, because I actually stole the session, let's steal it back from the RDP window so it fits our screen better. I have an Azure configuration right here. So when we define the cloud credentials and we do application packages out into Azure, you'll notice that this cache blocks locally box will be checked and you cannot uncheck it. Basically, it allows me to smooth out any hiccups that happen on the networking by caching the read portions of the application onto the machine where it was run. If I come out to my inventory location now, instead of, / server and all that fun stuff, when it's an Azure-based application, it's AZ://. When it's an S3 application, it's S3://. When it's a GCP, it's just GCP://, right? Those credentials are all defined here under the administrative section. And I can add things from S3 or, Google Cloud or whatever it may be. At the end of the day, it's all good for me, right? Wherever you define those Azure Blob Storage locations at. So, as we talk about producing a config, I have a config here that I can deploy directly into Azure Storage. And it will deploy there. If I come back to my storage account location, right, I have an on-prem config, and this is the INI file with the right now timestamp of 12:39 p.m. Mountain Time. Then from here on this VM, as we talked about earlier, as we showed earlier, we log in, we'll see our splash screen. Our splash screen will produce the config called FlexApp-Azure. This is the name I had in the console. So I will load a profile, I will mount applications, I will make the RDP window go away because it's annoying me. And you'll see applications start popping up. These are directly mounted from Azure. And as I open and launch those applications, I'll actually start caching those applications up to it. I denote my Azure applications with an AZ because I just need a unique identifier between the on-prem version versus the cloud version. But everything else here If I come out, I can run these notepads and I can run these 7-zips and I can run these Google Chromes. And it's, for lack of a better term, none the wiser that my applications are coming from Azure with 100 plus milliseconds between it and my house. So that's Profile Unity and FlexApp in Azure. Any questions spawned off from that?
I was gonna say, that's pretty impressive, right? Storing these applications in Azure and you're delivering them to an on-prem, we'll call it an on-prem desktop. So yeah, it's
all right. If nothing else, I will stop sharing and turn it back to you, Randy.
okay. Did have a question around how is this licensed?
Sure, it's licensed per user, and the user licensing is either in concurrency or in named user. So if you are a virtualization shop and you're using a Citrix or a VMware or one of those guys, and you're doing concurrency, there's a real distinct reason why you're doing concurrency, because you do shift work, right? You do those types of things like that. So we tend to follow those notions. If it's just, I know who my people are and everyone's going to access it across my organization and they have a laptop and they have a Microsoft license and they have this and all that likelihood case, 9 to 5 work, we all go home, we all call it good. That's probably a named user license and we tend to follow suit there.
Very good. Any sort of gotchas from an application standpoint? I know from a compatibility standpoint, you guys support, basically
The main gotchas is understanding the packaging process. We want to take the prerequisites and land the prerequisites onto our images. So those are our C++s and .NET frameworks. We don't want to package those guys as part of our packages because, as we always treat the analogy, treat FlexApp as we are driving down the highway going 80 miles an hour and we all got to jump into the car. So if I'm trying to jump and land a .NET framework on top of landing the actual application, I could have a significant delay in making both of those things happen. Just how deeply integrated .NET and the C++ is into the operating system when they get installed.
Very good, very good. Like that analogy. Okay. Feel free to throw any other questions in the chat window as well. Just wanted to mention, I appreciate that demo there. Wanted to mention, if you guys are interested in getting a little more familiar with Profile Unity or FlexApp, right? Let us know. We can always basically execute a POC or proof of concept. I know that from a deployment standpoint, this is fairly simple to deploy. We can work with you guys to get this installed in your environment. We got the specs up here. Just kind of talks through this, but if you guys are interested again in evaluating FlexApp a little more on-prem, getting your hands on it, just let us know. Same from a Profile Unity standpoint. Johnny and Tom, definitely appreciate the time. I don't know if there's any other questions. I know we finished a little early today, and so we left some time here for any additional questions. So I'm gonna check one more time before we call it. If anybody's got any additional questions, feel free to throw those in the chat window as well. Otherwise, while we're still giving it a moment, again, don't forget to go out and register for our Bronco giveaway. Again, we're giving away 2 of these. As I always like to say, you got to be in it to win it, right? So you definitely go out and register for that.
So when they win the Bronco, are they still liable to pay their own taxes on winning the Bronco?
No, you're asking the wrong person that. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how that works exactly, so.
Because I know that other places that consistently give away like cars, they will be like, we'll give you a car and we'll give you a briefcase of money to cover the taxes too.
Right. I don't, that's a good question. I don't know. I leave that outside the scope of mine. I handle the technical aspects. I'll leave the marketing stuff there to those guys. Well, that's a good question though. I'll take that offline and find that out. But I guess we'll find out here in about 20 something days. I know they're giving one away, or actually 2 fairly soon. So that'll definitely be interesting. So okay. Well, guys, definitely appreciate the time today. Johnny and Tom, great job as always. and appreciate it. And guys, if you have any questions or, anything afterwards, definitely follow up with us. We will, we can sync up. If you guys want to take a part of any of the proof of concepts, learn more about Liquidware, Profile Unity, and FlexApp, let us know. Or, we didn't really mention Stratosphere, but if you're interested in Liquidware's other solution, Stratosphere, definitely reach out. If you're interested in any of the other things that we talked about, right, whether it's be any of our complimentary assessments, for example, reach out. We'll give you details on that as well. But guys, appreciate the time today. And with that, we'll.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
all.
Thank you, everyone. We'll talk to you everyone later.
Yep.
Have a good
Yeah.